Now, one of the things I'm excited about for this coming week is that I think I mentioned on Tuesday, I have a new colleague. Well, he's not just my colleague, but a new colleague and friend to me, um, Andy. Can't remember his last name right now. Anyway, that's how new he is. But a biologist that's very interested, especially in sharks, and so I know at least some of you know of him, and but also is quite interested in the question, really, that we're talking about of creatures in the world, insects, birds, and so on, that are not simply don't simply live parasitically, or they're not just parasites, but seem to engage in survival behaviors that almost seem like unnecessarily cruel. And I really, really like this guy, and I love that he's trying to tackle that question. And so that seems to fit in pretty nicely here with the chapter from Moritz. I will say that one of the things that's happened with evolutionary theory in the last few years, maybe more than a few years now, but is like this is on page 262. I just want to draw out a couple things. Um, Biologists, and then he mentioned some people, this is about 10 lines from the bottom of 262, explained that in light of the discoveries of the last few decades, and I quote, classical conceptions of individuality are called into question. This is really interesting. Classical conceptions of individuality, meaning like I'm here, you're there, that's my dog over there, and pelicans are out there. I'm pointing in the right direction. Flying not that far away from where I'm sitting right now. Well, they may not be right now, but that these conceptions of individuality are called into question by evidence of all-pervading symbiosis. I really like this idea. Symbiosis, SYM, means with or together with. Then you have bio in their life. So symbiosis is a term that refers to life, human or otherwise, that kind of life that thrives in deep connection with or relationship to other life. Instead of ruthless competition between individuals as the axis around which evolution revolves, one finds, and now a quotation from these same biologists, one finds, quote, a world of complex and intermingled relationships, not only among microbes, but also between the microscopic and macroscopic life. According to these scientists, this is now top of 263, and this is interesting stuff. Evolution was essentially communal from the very beginning. We might think about how I ended that previous video with sort of the in fact the giving and receiving of life, consumption of life, but that this isn't simply a matter of like when one creature dies, another one gets to live off those energies, but that while creatures live and thrive, they do so already always in deep relation with each other. And the mutualistic dimension of the evolutionary process continues to this day, top of 263. The next paragraph, he quotes a wonderful theologian. He identifies her as a philosopher, which I guarantee you she would not think of herself primarily as a philosopher. She's definitely, got a philosophical edge to her, but it's a theologian named Sarah Coakley. And I'm going to post a picture of me with Sarah Coakley with these, just so, because it's kind of like theological name dropping. In my opinion, she's one of the finest living theologians on planet Earth right now. This is 263. When considered philosophically and theologically, reflects philosopher Sarah Coakley. Here's the quotation. The phenomenon of cooperation, seen now to be as deeply inculcated or, in the mix in the propulsion of evolution from the bacterial level upwards. Cooperation, not simply competition, but cooperation, provides a significant modification of the nature in red in tooth and claw. Very famous phrase. Wordsworth? I'm not sure, but a poet that called nature red in tooth and claw. And yeah, not to deny that. There's a lot of red. There's a lot of blood in the tooth and claw of nature. But that cooperation, symbiosis, these now, the giving of life and receiving, now kind of shift our understanding of evolution in some important ways. Now, again, I know that some of you might be on the fence about evolution anyway, but I think this is some really good stuff in here. I don't need to go on and on. I'll go to page 261. Let's see here. Let's look at this paragraph that's the paragraph right above the conclusion, and I have it circled, so I must think it's pretty good. In an evolutionary creation, the Creator is concerned not only with the spiritual development of human beings. We do believe that God is concerned with that, but not only that, but with that of all creatures that have at least some capacity to heed God's purposes. And, frankly, our ignorance is pretty grand on that note. Like, I don't at all want to deny the possibility that, let's say, whales, different kinds of whales, or sharks, or any number of creatures, my beloved pelicans, have at least some capacity to heed God's purposes. I don't know what those capacities are or what they're composed of. Being the best shark you can be, I suppose, if you're a shark or an elephant. But back to Moritz. A world of many species of free creatures. We've got to be careful how we're using the word free here. That can respond to God is truly a better or more valuable world than the best of all possible worlds that contains only one species of free creature who can regard or disregard the voice of its creator. Well, and I'm lifting this up out of context. Okay, maybe we need to go back to 268, bottom of 268. In an evolutionary understanding of God's creation, independence, freedom, rationality, knowledge, morality, and the capacity to directly respond to God's will, which we usually do associate with human beings, are not solely the possession of just one creaturely kind, that is, Homo sapiens, but of many. As discussed in chapter 7, humans are not unique in their possession of freedom, rationality, cultural, or moral action. And I do think that's true. And we need to think less in terms of like an absolutely qualitative difference between human beings and other creatures, and think more in terms of a continuum, we might say, or in terms of a quantity. It's certainly true that we think it's true anyway that human beings exercise greater intelligence. For goodness sakes, again, it's humans that have invented this technology that I'm using to talk about the problem of evil to other human beings. And there's no strong evidence that other creatures are delving very deeply into the issues of theodicy. It might be that some of those creatures may someday delve more deeply into it, or their descendants. But I also, again, would want to say I doubt if it's only on planet Earth. We can certainly talk about intelligence, moral agency, responsibility in non-human creatures on planet Earth. My educated guess is that there's a lot of that in other worlds, not planet Earth, within our universe. That's not his point, though. A world of many species of free creatures, A world of many free creatures is a world in which God's plans and purposes, I'm back now on 269, are not wrapped up in the prerogative and problems of one unique type of being, such as humans. And again, our strongest biblical statement about this is got to be Job, chapters 38 to 41, that comes on pretty strong with this message. It's not all about you human beings, but are instead akin to convergent endpoints of evolution that a spectrum of animal species can and will. I don't know that we can say they will reach it. They might be able to, but just because they can doesn't mean they will. There are a lot of factors in our world that might, in fact, prohibit other creatures from reaching such possibilities. Now, a real quick example of the kinds of things he means is what we believe is the independent evolution of eyes, or something like the eyes that human beings have, in other creatures. And I don't mean like orangutans. That's I'm assuming we share in the same evolutionary convergence there, but something like eyes in other creatures and other limbs of evolutionary process. So we might also say that the possibilities of rationality, development of sophisticated language and communication and so on might not be impossible. But there's a lot of factors now, especially humans on planet Earth, that will have a say, we might say, in whether this will happen. A world of many free creatures with the potential to love each other and God. And so again, we can all already say, like elephants, maybe, and elephants don't just love each other. Sometimes elephants or dogs or other mammals show love beyond their species. I think that's true. So can it happen at greater degrees? Why not, as the world turns? But again, so much hangs on how human beings behave now and in the coming decades as to whether other creatures will even have a good shot at this. But a world of many free creatures with the potential to love each other and God is a world in which, quote, the glory of the Lord will be revealed and all living things will see God's glory together. Isaiah chapter 40, verse 5. Bottom line here is, and I'll end with this one, human beings have reached a point in, if we assume the evolutionary account, in the history of evolution on our planet, that we now wield mass amounts of power. And we know that with power comes great responsibility. And that responsibility is something we really need to recognize, come to terms with, and grapple with seriously. We're not the center of the universe, I'm not saying that, but we do wield a great deal of power in regards to this planet. And maybe then, by extension, to this solar system, but I'm not going to put it beyond that at this point. I don't think God is limited in creativity and love to this planet. But this is the planet we know. This is the planet that we are responsible for and that has produced us as God's creative activity has been working with the energies of this planet and its atmosphere for these many years. And so a great deal of responsibility has come to us in this moment. And many are the people who rightfully tell us we have reached a crisis point and a tipping point. And heavens to Betsy. Let's learn as much as we can that we might responsibly love the Creator and all that God has created, that all might have a real fighting chance to flourish in the future. We'll stop there.